Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So yeah, my background. So I was always in customer success. So once I graduated, it's a path that I fell into. So I worked for an SMS marketing company, worked my way up the ladder, and then transitioned over to an agency where I helped build out the customer success department there.
Got it.
And that was SEO. It was, completely different. But yeah, my background is marketing. So I've always been with that business mindset, and then transitioning over into sex coaching. Still with my ways, I have, it's a little bit of spirituality, but also I take the practical approach, right? When it comes to coaching or any of these ancient teachings, I really want people to experience them in their daily life. And the spiritual stuff, it's not this woo woo stuff. It's something that you can
Mhm.
apply on your daily, and you can mix business and spirituality. So
Got it. So how long have you been, like, how long would you say you've been a relationship coach then?
yeah, so I would say I started my program in January, and then I started taking on clients about, I would say, 6 months ago or so,
Okay.
and just building my network, and just really figuring out what my niche is. I think that's still something that's unfolding, even though,
Yeah.
because right now my focus is women, but I'm actually now taking on some programs regarding men's sexuality and couples as well.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just said you're still trying to figure out
Yes.
what, maybe I guess what your brand is, but
Mhm.
in one sentence, could you try to like say what you like to focus on specifically? Like, what is Olivia's niche?
Yeah. So my niche would be empowering people to fully be themselves and change their relationship to sex, and really look at sex as sexual energy. So I think that's the biggest thing, is my focus is really helping people see beyond what society has taught you, but beyond what culture has taught you, and restructuring that relationship to you. And at the essence, your sexual energy is yours, and I want people to take their power back, and know that it's theirs.
Got it. So did you, sorry, I'm like rattling off all these
Yeah,
questions.
no, it's all good. It's all good. Keep them coming.
Is that something that you like sex? Did you know you wanted to really zero in on that when you started this, or kind of
Yeah.
what, I'm curious to hear what sparked your interest in making this transition. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say, even since I was 18, I was always interested. I was always the girl you go to and you talk to about anything, and you just open up. And I think that's, like, for example, sex is a topic that people, it's so taboo, or, not everyone is, I would say, comfortable speaking about it, but it's something that we all do. So
mhm.
I think it's so funny that there's such a taboo around that subject, especially culturally too. Every culture handles the matter differently. And I always, at the heart of everything, I valued connection. Like my whole life, I've always been searching for love, searching for connection, and that's something that, later on in life I realized, not everyone's motive is that. And I think at the
Yeah.
heart of everything we do is relationship, and I wanted to be a relationship expert. So people like Esther Perel were my
Mhm.
idols,
Okay.
like Teal Swan, and then Layla Martin, which is the program that I did.
Okay.
So of course it took me, let's say, so I'm 28 now, it took me 10 years to, like, have the guts to
Mhm.
really go into this and transition. And there was, of course, a lot of learning in the journey. I would say, like, about 3 years ago I started my spiritual awakening, I guess you could call it. It starts from meditation, a workshop here,
Mhm.
a thing here, and then it starts to just expand. And yeah, you roll into different things, and you start to realize, okay, well, what I was doing wasn't really, I wasn't really happy, and
Yeah.
it was time to make a shift.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool to
Yeah.
just like hear that you've been wanting to do this so long and it's been
Hmm.
such a process.
Yeah.
Um, Also curious to hear, because I really want to get into brand strategy.
Yeah.
And I always, I'm familiar with working for, like in sales for food products.
Hmm.
So branding for that is very different, obviously, because it's a product that you buy on the shelf,
Yeah.
Um, Whereas like something like relationship, being a relationship expert. I just
Yeah.
feel like how do you brand for that? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to put into words. I guess like when you're new to the space, and you're trying to figure out how you want to brand yourself, do you think it's helpful to look at other people's brands? Do you try to follow what other people are doing? Have you like totally gone a different path and just tried to do things purely on your own?
Yeah.
Just trying to get
Yeah.
an understanding of that, I guess.
For sure. No, that's a great question. So I think that was a crutch that I used to do because in marketing, I feel like you always look at other people's content and you just make it your own, right? It's always
Yeah.
that like, don't reinvent the wheel. There are certain concepts that you keep pretty, not cookie cutter, I should say, but how you package something, how you sell something, overall, you're either, selling a session, you're selling a package, or you're selling an event. But what the difference is would be like your flavor or your personality. Now, some people,
Hmm.
they're different from the brand, but I think the most success you'll have is as a coach, if you're closest to your own personality, it's going to come much naturally for you to market yourself, for you to be yourself, and then people are going to feel that. So it's
Hmm.
like I wouldn't want to market myself as something else because when you start doing sessions with me, you're going to realize, oh, whoa, like what I bought into is completely different than what I'm experiencing. So I would say my biggest focus has been like, how could I be more of me in the content I'm producing and how I'm showing up on Instagram? Yeah, how
How
like
to be
what podcasts
authentic.
I'm doing. Yeah, be authentic.
Yeah.
And with a lot of that, it's like, well, first, usually it's like, well, who are you, right? So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people haven't even fully figured that out, and of course, that's a process that unfolds. And I think a lot of it too is just like having the courage to be vulnerable, like share your story. Most of like the marketing for the coaching, it's your story, and some people
Mhm.
will resonate, some people won't, but you're gonna find people who do hear your story out and they're going to connect with you and they're going to be like, okay, I want to work with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting to like kind of think about if you right when you get into the space and
Yeah.
you're trying to start a business, you're also kind of like figuring out how to write your own story, probably in the
Yes.
process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And having to like, um, it's kind of like when you write things down for the first time, they like crystallize. But when
Hmm.
it comes to branding something, it's
Yeah.
like that times 100 almost,
Yeah.
because every little detail you want to reflect who you are, which is, I don't know. I mean, that's how I would think about it at least.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a perfectionist. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, this is cool. I mean, yeah, this is helpful for me, I think, because to be honest, I didn't know where to start my
Hmm.
research. Um, but it's nice to be able to talk to you, and it's just sparking ideas for me of kind of
Yeah.
like what angles to or what paths to go down in my research online. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of curious to hear more about your take on your clients. Obviously, you don't have to share anything if like you don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable, but um, I would love to just get a better sense of how you would characterize people who want to speak with you.
Hmm.
Um, I assume they're all people who are eager to do this type of work, but I don't know if you saw this message, but I was saying how I think relationship work is something everyone could probably benefit from since it's one of the most important aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Um, so do you personally think, I mean, I assume the answer, but do you personally think like every single person would benefit from like working with a relationship coach long term or short term, or what are your feelings about that?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, not only do I'm carrying out the work now, but I was partaking in the work, right? So I would say
Mhm.
really, I mean, it's all about experience, whether it comes to spirituality, any type of coaching, transformation. It's until you do it, until you start doing it and are open to maybe the changes and are really committed to, all right, like there's this version of myself and I really want to figure out how to get to this next level. I think
Mhm.
everyone will benefit from a coach. And whether it's relationships, whether it's, career coaches, et cetera, it's at the end of the day, it's someone who's going to reflect back to you what you don't see or an outside perspective. Really the beauty and like the work that I do is like I guide you through that journey. So it's like that additional layer of empowerment is because I'm not just telling you things. Like you're actually going into your subconscious and you're like figuring out the puzzle and putting it
Mhm.
together. And there's so much power that comes from seeing like, holy crap, like I was able to do that. I was able to go in there and figure out, from this memory, this is how my life has been affected. And now I can actually rewire that. And a lot
Mhm.
of the work is, that rewiring of the neural pathways. There's so much, as they say, like trauma is not the event, it's stored in the body. So there's so much that even now, like science is coming out with, or people are starting to understand, yes, energy, thoughts actually affect the physical world.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I would say it's definitely a journey. Like I would say beneficially, you would work for like 3 months is usually like when you're going to see the major improvement.
Wow.
Consistently working with someone, let's say on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
Like who I was 2 years ago is like, it's even shocking to think about who I am today. Like the
Mhm.
amount of, I mean, I used to be such an overthinker. I was so afraid of the unknown, like this fear that paralyzed me of making a choice because I wanted to make the right choice. Like this concept of, that you can make the wrong choices is
Yeah.
so there's so much to it. And it is, it's funny. It's like, yeah, each time you do the work, it's like you uncover one piece of the, puzzle, or like one layer of the onion. So you
Mhm.
start to realize, okay, this healing stuff, it really never ends. So that was
Yeah,
something that I had to
totally.
like accept. I was like, okay, it never ends. But then there's also so much expansion with that.
Mhm.
And it really makes you realize like, wow, everything is so limitless. And, people who I've talked to who have been, doing this work, they said in this last year is more that they've uncovered than in their like in the previous 5 years. So there's something changing too. It's accelerating, and people are, waking up. People are quitting their jobs because they're just fed up. They're not happy, and so something
Yeah.
is definitely brewing. And I think relationships and relationship to yourself is at the forefront of everything.
I'm curious to, because you probably get a lot of clients who might say something along these lines, like, "Wow, I never thought that we were gonna cover this
Hmm.
because I thought it was more about this."
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think everyone kind of has the same, like, first of all, does that happen a lot? And
Hmm.
two, does everyone kind of have the same answer or the same um, feelings about what's different
Yeah.
between the thought and what actually happened?
Yeah, so a lot of the work that I do, it's a tantric approach to sex, love, and relationships.
Okay.
And really, what that means is getting out of your head and into your body. So your body is actually constantly talking to you. Like your emotions are messengers. Anything that you're feeling, it's just trying to communicate to you. Now, are you listening? Are you suppressing? Are you repressing? So there's so
Hmm.
much of that goes on. But my approach is really also be playful, be curious. Like the spiritual stuff, this healing stuff, it's not supposed to be so serious. Like my I wish that someone told me like, it took me a while to realize this, but my whole life I was like, what's my purpose? Like, I was trying to figure out my purpose, and it was this cosmic joke of like, just choose something, just choose anything, and it's
Yeah.
gonna get you choose something that you want to do, right? That you
Hmm.
actually like, something that you want, not what someone told you, not what the market's saying, and not something that's just gonna, provide you that salary and that security. And I used to make fun of. I mean, I didn't believe. I was skeptical. People were like, "Do what you love, and the money will come." Right? And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever. That's that's such bullshit." But I'm starting to realize, like, no, like that's actually the key.
Yeah.
And you
That's
just have to
awesome.
really, yeah, like take it as like day by day. Like sure, what I'm doing now, I might not be doing this in 10 years, but at least I know I'm closer than I've ever been to what I really
Hmm.
want to do. Right? So
Totally.
I mean, it's constantly evolving. You're evolving. Your purpose is evolving. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, one thing that really stuck out to me that you just said is that healing's not supposed to be like, this work that you're doing is not supposed to be so serious.
yeah,
And it just made me think about like, yeah, like I feel like relationship um, coaching, like the industry,
yeah,
even like therapy, all these type of healing services, they come off as being very serious.
yeah,
Um, and you're saying now you feel like it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And just, given my role, I'm wondering how that's affecting people's perceptions of wanting to do it, if it's
Mhm.
pushing people away. But wondering what your thoughts are, just like, where do you think that comes from? Like, why do we think it's so serious when it's not as
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah. So I would say, it's like, okay, trauma is a serious thing, right? But there's
Mhm.
different levels, and I'm not disregarding anyone's experience, but it's like, that saying, if you take life so seriously, it takes out all the joy out of it, right? And I think the whole purpose and the whole goal of everything is get closer to love, get closer to joy. And along the path that I've been on, and the tantric approach, it's like you go after your desires to get you closer to, to really what brings you joy, what brings you that fulfillment.
Mhm.
And I mean, I took life pretty seriously. I was like, I want to get that promotion and I have to be serious. And, there was no time for play. But, or I mean, and if there was, it was very like, okay, only like on these days or etc.
Mhm.
And I think what I realized too is like when I was in that frequency of like playing, of being creative, that's when like most of the magic happened. It's like when you're able to even like it's like coming up with ideas with someone or bouncing off ideas and being in that creative space, that brainstorm, making those connections. Like that's where really, that co-creation or like that conscious co-creation, which I love to talk about, is really comes to life. And it's like we all, we're all on our path.
Mhm.
We all have our issues, right? So might as well, let's take a different look at it and let's make this more of like a game of like, okay, let me see how I can get to the next level. Let me see how I can expand. Let me see how I can really experience more of life, and really it's that magic piece. And it's funny because people may think like, oh my gosh, magic, that's not real, like you're crazy. And it's
Mhm.
true, it's like unless you experience it, unless you step into that fear, you probably won't see it because you'll be masked by the fear. And there's just like there's so much on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, like, just thinking about how much you have, like, how much you really can say about um, this topic, and
Yeah.
how much that goes into, because the work you're doing is very important. um, and you said,
Yeah.
like, it takes 3 months for people to really get a lot out of it. It's probably a very long process, and just trying to put myself in your shoes, like, how are you supposed to convey, like, everything you just told me, everything that can
Yeah.
happen in your brand? Like, it's
Yeah.
almost impossible. So I wonder, like, are a lot of people just like not even focusing so much on it? um I don't know, it's really making me appreciate the difficulties in trying to brand something like this, that is
Yeah.
because people are passing your content in 1-2 seconds. um how are you supposed to grab people's attention?
Yeah,
um
definitely. No, that's a
yeah.
great point. So, like I said, so 3 months I would say would be the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But I'm also a firm believer, and you can accelerate your healing, and you can accelerate expansion as well. I'm also I like to I like things quick, right? So any way that
Mhm.
I can figure out how to get to something quicker, like you will experience shifts even from one session. You may not be fully aware because there's so much of the integration that I've learned. Like you may have a session, things may happen, and you don't fully get it until maybe a month later, where you start to put everything together. Like things start to click in place, and there's definitely different routes to take. My focus has been like, how can we access that subconscious quicker so that you can go back to the memory, you can rewrite that story, and change that piece so you're no longer that's no longer your pattern, right? And you're breaking these patterns that have been so wired
Mhm.
for you. And with the branding, um, yeah, I would say, also too with like things like sex coaching and relationship coaching, you're probably going to see my content a few times and maybe for a few months before you take action because it is something that's so personal. There's a little bit of that battle of like, I'm fine, everything's fine. Like, I'll figure it out. I don't need to get help, right? And after some time, it's like, no, it's like you start to see like, well, they must have figured it out. And I want to know how I can crack the code too. Like, look at the life that they're living and how they view the world. How could I get closer to that? So there's a little bit of that time period of like, you need to be open and ready for that change. Otherwise, your ego is always going to kind of like control you and be like, you're fine, you're fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's
And
interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, and then to answer your question about like the right way to market that, I would say I'm still figuring that out. But I think the
Yeah,
more you share, the more you share stories, the more you share experiences, people will get curious and they're gonna be like, okay, like I want to try that out. I want to see
yeah.
if that works for me.
It's interesting you said off the bat, like 2 months probably is how long you have to be seeing the content. Um, where did you come up with that number? Is that like something
No,
you've been able to kind
no,
of?
I don't know even it's 2 months. It's probably a few months, right? So
Yeah,
this
okay.
is from what I've heard as well. They do say like that the sales cycle is a little bit longer. Through the program that I was in, we actually had like a business boot camp. So they gave us some
Okay.
background on kind of how the industry works. There's different approaches. Maybe Instagram works for you. Maybe you're going to be great on YouTube. So you have to really just see like where does your content take off. Personally, I'm doing warm network marketing, starting with my Instagram base because I already, have some friends there. I have like a soft network. So that has been, I would say, probably like the easiest way, but who knows where I'll expand next to.
Mhm.
But I am seeing I'm trying to get more into the event space in Miami so that I can at least get more of a presence in the Miami scene as well.
Got it.
So, and then it's like, yeah, more practice. And from what I'm hearing too, it is a lot of networking. Like people meet you and they feel you, they feel your energy and they're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I really want to work with you. It feels like, it feels right. It feels aligned. So,
Makes sense. It probably is very much of a word of mouth kind of thing.
mhm.
Um, I feel like a lot of people who are seeking this type of work um, can very easily just try to look someone up online and get overwhelmed by, like, who do you choose? Like, who do I pick?
Yeah.
I don't know any of these people. And
Yeah.
then you start asking your friends, like, hey, like, I don't know if people would ask their friends, but yeah, no, it totally makes sense that it's very much word of mouth, probably.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're kind of coming up on time. I don't know if you have to go, but I have to go in about 5 minutes. But
Yeah.
this has been super helpful for me. Like
Mhm.
I'm getting a lot of ideas out of this. So I wanted to thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah.
One thing uh, I want to touch on before we go is like, if you could change the general population's perception
Mm.
of what this work is about, for the better, like what would you, I guess another better way to phrase it, like if you could tell the entire population one sentence,
Mhm.
that if they like automatically just believed you, that everyone would start speaking to a relationship coach, what would you say?
Mm.
I don't want to put a lot of pressure. That's a tough
Yeah.
ask, I know, but
Yeah. For my work specifically, my main message would be, your sexual energy is sacred and connection is the source of life, of the magic of everything. So it's, connection to yourself and there's so much healing that can come from, your sexual experiences and I guess that in a way it would
that's
be the
good.
sentence. Yeah.
No, totally. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of like, um, I thought I was going to come into this and like you were going to be able to speak about the industry as a whole, but that's not really how it works. I mean, everyone kind of has
Yeah.
their own
Yes.
take
Own
on
path.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like now that I'm thinking about it, how could you even like speak about the industry as a whole? And like, I feel like part of the reason why, I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of people
Yeah.
get into this type of work is because they feel like they can change something about it
Yeah.
or want to add something to it that they see as missing.
Hmm.
So yeah, anyway, thank you so much, Olivia. This was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. All right.
um, Wondering if, I mean, I don't really know if you would, but do you have any tips for me on like what some things you should think about while I'm doing this research?
Yeah,
Like I said, this is very early stages for me. I'm just trying to uh, understand what it's like to be in the space first, and then go from there. But
yeah. I would say, yeah, this industry is evolving too. And like you
yeah,
mentioned, it's like everyone has their own flavor. Like mine is a more spiritual take, right? Like I brand myself as right now I'm branding myself as like a fairy love witch, right? Which may sound crazy to some, but some people will resonate. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, some people are going to be more business focused. Some are going to be more, more structured, more communication. That like there's so many different paths to take. And that's why, even with my work, it's like I'm really focusing on people who are going through their breakups because was their that was my catalyst for my awakening. And those moments in life that are, most intense is what really speaks to people. And ultimately, it's a game of you opening your heart and really helping people, see the benefits of that and how transformational it can be.
hmm
Um, so yeah, it's like there's different marketing approaches, and a lot of it too is like the person believing in their own, abilities and their own work, and that's going to translate into everything that they're creating.
and
So
it's not. I guess a good addition or summary would be like it's really not. What's the word? A monoculture. Yeah, it's not a monoculture.
oh no, yeah, definitely not.
Because yeah, and I've noticed too, like after just looking up relationship coach, it's like that could
Yeah,
cover a
yeah,
wide range of things. But anyway, want to thank you
yeah,
again, Olivia, for speaking with me. This has been very helpful. Hope I can just ping you with some questions if I'm curious about anything.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Hopefully I can like do some sort of work that might be helpful for you. I don't know, but this has been very helpful for me. So yeah, just want to let you know, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, well, thanks so much, Luke, and yeah, good luck with your research. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Take care, Olivia. Bye-bye.